Printed at the edge of the world on ancient maps was a warning, a caution for travelers and intrepid sailors. Go no further, for here be dragons. This is the story of how Siegfried slew the dragon. Empowered by a magical sword, Siegfried sets off to kill the dragon. Bathing in the dragon's blood made Siegfried almost invincible. The Greek Perseus saved Andromeda from a dragon and was rewarded with a kingdom. The dragon of St. George was a manifestation of the devil. Only the bravest knights would dare face such a monster. The dragons of China carried emperors to heaven. Dragons, the nemesis of kings and the symbol of emperors. Their saliva is deadly. Their eyesight acute. They can run at a speed of up to 20 kilometers an hour. When these animals attack, nothing can stop them. These are not the creatures of mythology. They are Komodo dragons. The antique maps were not wrong. To the west of Java are 5 tiny islands, and here be dragons. In 1910, a Dutch administrator from a neighboring island heard stories of an island populated by giant lizards. So he set sail and landed here on the island of Komodo, where he found dragons. 60 years later, another intrepid adventurer arrived by boat. The Swiss Baron was an amateur photographer. He came to Komodo for the extraordinary landscapes of the volcanic island. He didn't intend to stay long. The Baron had surely heard about the dragons. He might have been lucky enough to catch a glimpse of one hidden in the grass. But the dragons were not what brought him here, and he was only going to stay for an afternoon. The amateur photographer found tracks on the beach. He probably didn't notice the tracks he was leaving behind. He spent the afternoon enjoying his hobby, oblivious that something had followed him. He even managed to snap a few pictures of dragons wandering in the distance. His presence didn't seem to disturb the giant lizards. They looked quite content in the sun. While trying to take as many pictures as he could before returning to his boat, he was so engrossed in what he was doing that he didn't notice. The Baron never returned to his boat that afternoon. He stayed much longer on Komodo than he ever expected to. Nine people have been killed by the dragons on Komodo. What is interesting is that none of them was from the island. Lumbering down the beach, the Komodo looks like a descendant of the dinosaur. Though the Komodo is a reptile, it now seems that rather than descending from dinosaurs, the two creatures share an even more ancient ancestor. The Komodo is the world's largest lizard. Males can grow to over 3 meters in length and weigh about 70 kilos. Between May and August, the mating season, they battle for females. The hostilities can involve more than 2 males. The contest continues down the beach. There must be a decisive victory to establish a dominant male. Younger or weaker dragons concede, and the encounter for the right to mate comes down to just 2. Using his tail for support, the Komodo thrusts his head into the air for the final round. The fights are often bloody, though combat is rarely mortal. As the loser retreats, the victor can now claim his prize. And the courtship begins. Komodos attract females by flicking their tongues over the female's body. Like the Greek legend of Perseus, this male has won the lady's affections. The sex organs of both dragons are hidden inside their bodies. Therefore, mating is occasionally a prolonged and clumsy affair. Although mating can begin as early as March, the females won't lay their eggs until September, avoiding the heat of the dry season. Females will also mate more than once, increasing the chances of all their eggs becoming fertilized. Once the act of mating is completed, the male rambles away. Having fought for the maiden and having claimed his prize, this dragon's off to conquer new territory. It is the female's responsibility to find a suitable nest for her eggs. These holes in the cool shade are a perfect place for Komodos to lay their eggs. The cavities are actually nests of these flightless megapodes. It is likely that the little bird does not realize that her nest is about to become the lair of a dragon. The female digs out the existing holes, creating long passages into the backs of hills, where she will lay up to 30 soft white eggs. The Komodo will guard the entrance of her cave and its treasure of eggs, like the dragons of fables. Once the eggs hatch, her responsibility ends. Tiny dragons weighing less than 100 grams move out of the nest as soon as they hatch. There is safety in numbers, and the little dragons move cautiously away from the nest. Instinctively on the lookout for predators, like this snake. Instinct also directs the Komodo to move into the trees off the ground, where they may be spared the gecko's fate. Komodos continue to grow, albeit slowly, for their entire lives. The Lilliputian dragons may spend the first 2 years of their lives in trees, avoiding the threat of predators. The young dragons quickly separate and begin solitary lives, clinging to the trees with their already formidable claws. Immature dragons will sometimes go hunting in trees, for their own kind. Komodo dragons are cannibals. Lower, thicker branches will support their weight. Moving higher may save this young life. A female wild boar and her piglets could be easy prey for a dragon. But this dragon, noxious saliva dripping from its jaws, has another meal planned. Komodo don't eat often, perhaps only once a month. But when they do eat, Rusa deer are their preferred prey. Strangely, the deer don't seem disturbed by a dragon in their midst. Perhaps they realize that he came back to finish a meal. This young deer was attacked several days ago. Its neck and leg are injured and seriously infected. The Komodo's mouth contains 50 different bacteria, 7 of which are highly septic. The infection caused by the Komodo's toxic bite will soon kill the deer. And the dragons move in to feed upon the corpse. Of the 9 people killed by dragons, not one was from the island of Komodo. Dragons and islanders have lived here together for thousands of years. The islanders make a living primarily from fishing. The waters off Komodo are a perfect place for catching squid. A dragon arriving at the beach may have smelt this boat's morning catch. It was once believed that Komodo enjoyed the water. Like most animals, dragons can swim if pressed, but Komodos preferred dry land. The fishermen aren't above tossing a fish or two to the lone dragon. He won't go in the water to retrieve the offering. He'll wait till it washes up on shore. The tide is bringing a much more substantial feast for the dragon. This dragon may have picked up the scent of the carcass hours ago. Dragons don't smell with their tongues. The tongue samples molecules in the air and delivers them to an organ inside the mouth. The organ is so sensitive that by moving their heads back and forth, the dragons know exactly where the carcass will land. Dragons are such proficient carnivores, their jaws so strong, they can eat horn and bone. The Komodo's wait has not been in vain. It can finally begin to feed. Other dragons now approach the carcass. Jaws wide open, their serrated teeth tear flesh like paper. Komodos eat so quickly, there may be few leftovers for this little crab. The dragon may have smelt it, despite the stench of the cow. But the crab continues its tentative approach. When competing for females, dragons are ferocious, but Komodos of the same size will feed together without incident. After shaking out fecal matter, dragons will even eat intestine. It is meals like this that contribute to the dragon's lethal saliva. There's little left over for the boars, birds, and a young dragon. Even the butterflies are scavenging, feeding off dragon dung. Capable of consuming 80% of his own weight in one meal, this dragon barely manages to stay upright as a wave hits him. High above the feasting, and with perfect timing, an eagle neatly snatches a fish from the bay. After their evening prayers, the fishermen of Komodo prepare for a night's work.
Dali.
On either side of their boats, the islanders hang lanterns to attract squid at night. Once all the lights are on board, the tiny fleet heads for open water. The evening's catch is substantial. And with the sunrise, the boats return to the village. The Komodo have smelt the previous night's catch, now drying in the sun. A bit of encouragement, and the dragon is on his way. The paddle won't touch him, just help him understand that this is not a buffet. As early as 1915, dragons were protected by law. This park continues that tradition. As much as Western mythology has demonized the dragons, so Eastern tradition reveres them. On Komodo, where the people coexist with them, there are stories of how the dragons came to be. Long ago, a princess gave birth to twins, a boy and girl. The boy was a healthy, strong baby, but the baby girl was a lizard. Realizing she was a burden to her mother, she left. The princess could not forget her daughter. And so every day she would take food to her. Since that time, there have been dragons on the island. And the mother always remembers her daughter's sacrifice. And the dragons have never forgotten that their ancestors were human. And that is why Komodo dragons never attack the people of Komodo. The carver's work, and maybe his stories, are offered to visitors at Komodo National Park. As dragons wander through the village, ignoring easy prey, it seems that there might be some truth to the carver's tale. It's too bad the dragon won't tell us.